Monday. And guess what? It's time for you to get your mindset right so that you can win this week. It's time for you to make the most of whatever opportunities may come your way this coming 7 days and prepare for the opportunities that exist beyond this week. So I want to just share with you one more little nugget about how you and I can be successful, how we can take advantage of the opportunities that we have or create opportunities for ourselves this week through our work. And that is simply for you and I to be disciplined. Discipline is very important if you and I are going to accomplish our goals. If we're going to make our vision become a reality, if we're going to make our dreams come true, it's going to require a lot of discipline. Discipline sounds boring, but what I've learned about success is most things that are required to be successful is somewhat boring. Sometimes we think that, it's about this extravagant experience, this extraordinary happenings, but success happens in the course of the ordinary, mundane processes of living. And if you and I can be sure that we are disciplined in that ordinary, mundane, boring, day-to-day activity, we're setting ourselves up for future success. I'm a sports person, and as you know, many times in sports, the team who has the most talent does not win. We call that upsets. We call it Cinderella stories. We call it rooting for the underdog. But what happens most of the time in these scenarios when the team who everyone perceives to be better or everyone knows is better ends up losing the game is because that team that was undermanned and maybe even underskilled was disciplined. They protected the ball. They reduced their turnovers. They made sure that they were focused on doing their job each and every play. They weren't worried about the end results. It was just about doing what was right for that particular play in that particular moment. And they knew if we can get a series or be able to produce a run of good disciplined playing, we can win the game. And that's why most of the times you can have the talent, the skills, and even the opportunity. But if you don't have discipline, you will not win. I won't say that again. You can have the talents, you can have the skills, you can have all the opportunities in the world, but if you do not have the discipline, you will not win. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. That comes from Jim Rohn. That discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. It takes discipline for you to get from setting your goals to actually achieving those goals. Discipline is a learned behavior. No one comes out of the womb disciplined. I don't care who they are and what they have accomplished in their lives. No one is just innately disciplined. It is a learned behavior. It is this whole focus, this intentionality to make sure that you keep the main thing the main thing. It is a learned behavior. That means that no matter who you are, and no matter what your history may be, no matter where you come from, you can become disciplined. You can be disciplined. It is a learned behavior. You can train yourself to live a disciplined life. It is not tunnel vision, though. Being disciplined does not mean that I'm so singular-minded that I don't do anything else. It does not mean that you all work and no play. Discipline means that you have the ability not to allow the things in your peripheral field of view to distract you from your primary focus. It's you understanding that there is a time to play, but there is a time to work. And you spend more time working than you do playing. This is what discipline is. It is about the ability to prioritize. M. Scott Peck said this: discipline is wisdom and vice versa. In other words, discipline is wisdom, wisdom is discipline. The ability to do the smallest steps in order to accomplish the larger goal. That's what you best do. Be willing to do the small steps in order so that you can achieve that lofty goal that you are reaching and striving and straining toward. It is your commitment. It is the ability for you to be committed behind the scenes when there is no fanfare, when there is no spotlight, there's no stage, and there's no applauding audience. It's your ability to be committed behind the scenes. When people aren't watching, when no one is rooting you on, when no one is shouting your name, when no one is saying good job. Discipline is the work that you put in behind the scenes. It is embracing the grind. It's embracing the grind and refusing to cheat the process. Disciplined people aren't trying to take shortcuts. They're not trying to find a way around it. They're not trying to figure out how to do it with less strain. No, a disciplined person says, I embrace the grind and I'm not going to cheat the process. I'm going through every single step, whatever it takes to make this happen. That's discipline. And it's hard. It's hard. It's not easy to be disciplined. If it was easy to be disciplined, then more people would be successful. If it was easy to be disciplined, then more people would be attaining these lofty dreams and aspirations that they have. Discipline is hard. And I dare even say discipline is painful. It's painful. Because in order for me to discipline myself, it means I have to deny myself some things. It means I have to stop doing something that I want to do in order to focus on what I need to be focused on. Discipline is painful. It means sacrifice. It means going without. It means sometimes being willing to say no when you really want to say yes. It's painful. But you have a choice you can make. You can suffer the pain of discipline or suffer the pain of regret. You can suffer the pain of discipline or suffer the pain of regret and just say, I woulda, coulda, shoulda, I wish I hadn't. Discipline is painful, but it causes less than regret. And it produces a far more valuable and fruitful life. If you want to win, you have to be disciplined. Let me show this to you, just a couple things really quickly about how discipline plays itself out in the lives of people in the Bible and even in human history. People that we look to, stories that we recall about great triumphs, all happen because of discipline. Remember Joshua chapter 6 when they were walking around the Jericho wall? And here's the challenge that people miss in the text. They were challenged to walk around the wall 7 times. And for 6 times, they were to not say a word. They were not to mention, they were not to say anything as they were walking around this wall. The Lord was requiring discipline for them to be able to experience success, in order for them to experience victory. He says, no, you got to discipline yourself first. So each time around this entire city, they had to walk and not say a word, not grumble, not complain, not whisper to their neighbors, but simply be quiet. And since they were willing to be disciplined and walk around that wall those 6 times, and that 7th time, after the 7th time, they let out a shout. The walls came tumbling down. But without discipline, there's no defeat of Jericho. Or maybe you remember when Jesus had the 5,000, not including men and women and children, in the wilderness. And all he had was a set lunch, 2 fish, 5 loaves of bread. And he tells disciples, go sit the people in groups of 50. Go sit them in groups of 50. You got to think about that. That requires a lot of discipline. It was boring. to go through 5,000 people, not including women and children, and just count to 50, sit that group into a section, and then move on to the next group, count 50 people out, sit them in a particular section, then move on and keep counting until all 5,000 plus was organized in groups of 50. Discipline. Without discipline, we don't have the feeding of the 5,000 with 12 baskets full left over. Discipline is required for you to experience victory. And how about looking at the civil rights movement? Get out the page of the Bible, look into human history. Many people were fighting for fair, equal rights. And they had to have the discipline to be able to restrain themselves and practice nonviolence and love in the midst of severe hatred and terrorism. They had to have the discipline not to fight back. They had to have the discipline to resist the urge to fight evil with evil. And today we have the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act. And we, those of you who look like me, African Americans, and other minorities, including women, have our rights because people had the ability to discipline themselves. With no discipline, there's no victory. And then, back to my sports analogy to end up, you think about your favorite players, no matter what the sport is. If you're baseball, Derek Jeter. If you are looking at basketball, people like LeBron James, people like Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan. If you're talking about football, people like a Tom Brady. All of these people have one thing that is a common thread. They're not playing the same sport. They're not equally athletic. But each one of them are champions because they were disciplined. Not what we saw on the court, but even off the court. In their daily practice routines and even their lifestyles and their eating habits. Discipline. They recognize that if I want to be a champion, if I want to experience victory, I have to be disciplined. And that same thing is for you and I. If you want to experience victory, if you want to win, you must discipline yourself. You must be willing to have a focused intention, not be distracted by the things on the peripheral, and go through the pain and the sacrifice that's required for discipline. There are no shortcuts. There is no easy way out. You and I must discipline ourselves. Make no excuses. Every single day, commit to doing the same singular things, so that we can get to the place that we aspire to get to. Discipline. Start today. Start today with your eating habits. Start today with your exercise routine. Start today with your daily work routine. Start today with your sleep routine. Start today giving yourself a disciplined routine. And I guarantee you and I will receive the benefits and be the recipients of the great dividends that a disciplined lifestyle brings. Make no excuses. Go be disciplined. If you're willing to experience the pain of discipline, then you will not experience the sorrow of defeat. Let's go win. Thank you for listening.